All right, I'm live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of A Little Bit of Everything. This is the sixth installment of this particular live stream, and things are going to be a little bit different today because how things have been unfolding this week is that after I do a stream, I usually have things come to me that I want to talk about the next day. And all day yesterday, nothing was coming to me as far as subject matter to talk about this morning. And for a couple hours, I was feeling somewhat nervous because, what's the point of going online if you don't have anything to, present, talk about? But at the same time, I realize that it's really just all okay because the fact of the matter is, this is my show, it's my stream, and it will offer whatever. And if I have to sit here for an hour and just say nothing and just look like a fool, then so be it. Um, you all can just sit there and admire my good looks. Right. But anyway, as time went on, something did come to me later in the evening that I wasn't sure the significance of even bringing this up. But after waking up this morning and taking a look at what's going on online, it all started to come together. But in the beginning of the year 2012, I had an experience where the picture of what defines love was complete in my mind. For years prior, people have a natural way of relating to the subject of love from a place of sentiment, how you feel about something or how you feel about someone. And that may be okay for a woman to, live that way, but that wasn't acceptable to me being a man. And over the years, as I started to get older, the real picture of what defines love started to come together. And finally, in the spring of 2012, it's like all the pieces of the puzzle were complete. The picture was complete. And it's like my life shifted in that regard as far as relating to love from a position of principle rather than from sentiment. And it wasn't very long after that that a friend had asked me if I would house sit for them and take care of their dogs while him and his wife went on vacation. And I offered to do that for them. And while I was at their house, I noticed that they had a very large collection of DVDs. And I went through and I picked out a couple that had some kind of love story within the plot of the movie. And I wanted to watch these in order to evaluate what they were saying or doing in comparison to what had been revealed to me, to see for experimental purposes, just to see the comparison and the contrasts. And one of the movies that I watched, it was a trilogy. It was called The Matrix. Now, I had seen the first Matrix movie several years before, and 2 more had come out since then that I didn't watch, and since they had all 3 of them, I decided to watch the whole story because really at the heart of the whole Matrix franchise is a love story, and it's not just between the 2 main characters, but, uh, many of the characters in the movie, there's some kind of love connection between them and someone else that is revealed in different ways. And the people who are responsible for making that movie, the Wachowski brothers, they made another movie that seemed to have a popular following in its wake, that these people had to happen to have a copy of at their house. And I watched that also just for comparison. And this particular movie was mainly known for the main character wearing a flat brim hat with a tall crown and wearing this white mask with black face paint with this really big smile on it. And I'd seen that logo many, many times before I'd seen this movie. And I often wondered, what's the significance of that? Does this mask represent somebody, or is it just, made up for the movie? So when I watched that movie, I was pretty horrified to find out that that mask represented a historical figure named Guy Fawkes. And in this movie, Guy Fawkes is basically portrayed as a hero, which is really antithetical to anybody who has any kind of knowledge of history. And in England, there is a holiday that they recognize every November where they burn a human effigy of this man, Guy Fawkes. And it's interesting how many people in England today don't know the backstory behind that, and they don't know the significance of it. They just relate to it. They all just relate to it as just some holiday that's kind of comparable to the observance of Independence Day here in America. And I want to interrupt myself here just to address something in chat. Mel Tony says, maybe you can explain why EHEX, PHEX, pulse, pulsex, both icoses and hedrons all go up and down at the exact same time. All the charts show that every day. What's your opinion? I'm going to get into that in a later segment when I talk about crypto, but that's an awesome question. I'm glad you brought it up because it ties in with everything that I'm going to talk about this morning. So thank you for asking that. But anyway, Guy Fawkes was one of the operatives behind something called the Gunpowder Plot, which was an attempt to not only assassinate King James I, the King of England, but the entire English Parliament. And, some people see this as like an attempt to, create freedom, create independence by wiping out half the government. And the fact of the matter is, Guy Fawkes was doing this on behalf of the Vatican to try and bring England back into subjection of papal rule because England had severed its connections with the Vatican and had basically become independent. So Guy Fawkes was trying to undo that by attempting to assassinate the king and parliament. And um, in this movie, which is called V for Vendetta, um, the main character in that movie is basically trying to do the same thing. At the end of the movie, basically blows up Parliament, at least the building. And this is seen as an act of heroism when really it's just using resistance to try to solve a problem that wasn't caused by an absence of resistance. It's like if you eliminate um, your administrators of state, you're not creating freedom. All you're really creating is a power vacuum that other people are going to want to capitalize on for their own interests. So, this ties in with the fact that good 200 and some years ago plus, there was a shift in the way people evaluate history. It was through the introduction of a philosophical construct called uniformitarianism that was first advocated by a man named James Hutton. I believe that was back in the 1700s. And essentially, this perspective, to summarize in one sentence, can be said that the present is the key to the past. In other words, history becomes irrelevant. All that matters is now. And we just use the state of now to explain the past because evidently humans today are smarter than they were in the past. And previous to that narrative being introduced into mainstream psyche and society, people studied history in order to understand why things are now the way they are now based on how they were in the past. And um, it's kind of interesting with this recent Tucker Carlson interview with Vladimir Putin that was just broadcast. Um, I still haven't gotten around to watching it. I saw an introduction to it where Tucker talked about the fact that Mr. Putin went on for like a half an hour giving a history lesson to Tucker. Evidently, a lot of that was edited out. But, people in Western society, they tend to find that redundant and unnecessary. And I saw a tweet that somebody had put out from some mainstream media source criticizing this interview and criticizing the fact that President Putin went on and on and on about the history of Russia because in Western civilization today, history has been rendered irrelevant, and that has really been done on purpose. There's a book that I read several years ago called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America by a lady named Charlotte Iserby. And she was part of the Department of Education under the presidency of Ronald Reagan. And while she was uh, doing her role in that position, she had uncovered information that very much shows what the intent was overall of the Department of Education. And she talked about it in her book, which gives an overall history of public education in the United States. Awesome book. I would highly recommend it. You may even be able to find it online for free if you look around. So, um, and why all this matters in relationship to crypto is that I wake up this morning and another thing that was brought to my attention is the fact that a some cryptocurrency related product, project, platform, whatever it is, called Beetroot had experienced what is called a rug pull. And the people behind it, they deleted their Telegram account, they deleted their Twitter account, and they basically took the money and ran. This is not the first time something like this has happened in crypto. It happens often. As a matter of fact, Richard Hart has a Twitter feed that has like over 100 different crypto things that have experienced something similar. And, personally, I'd hardly heard of this beetroot thing. Maybe saw it mentioned in passing a few times on Twitter, but I never looked into it. I never got involved with it because when you have XT shares, you don't need to go chasing shiny objects. But yeah, this thing had vanished. And soon as I saw the name of it, the first time it had gotten mentioned, I'm like, oh, yeah, another vegetable coin. It reminded me of something that was promoted as some kind of Hex knockoff, like right after Hex launched. Somebody invented some vegetable coin called Yam. And it crashed like within 48 hours because the contract wasn't audited. So it had some kind of bug in it and it crashed right away. And I remember Richard Hart, making fun of this fact. And then the people behind it, like, yeah, we're going to fix this and we're going to launch Yam 2. And it's going to be, a working product. And of course, it never happened. But ever since then, I've always been weary of people who make cryptocurrencies and they name them after food products because Yam crashed and now beetroot rugged. And there's other food coins out there that I'm not going to call out because I don't know enough about them to say, one thing or another. And I'm not going to make disparaging comments about something, that I don't know anything about. But what's wrong with just getting Hex T-shares? Just stake your Hex. Stake it till you make it. You buy Hex, you stake it until the dollar value of your yield is worth more value than your paycheck. And then once you get to that point, then you can take inventory on your financial strategies and go from there. It's like, is crypto mostly made up of children? It has seemed that way ever since Ethereum came along. But anyway, to clarify what a rug pull actually is, in case anybody watches this who's new and doesn't understand some of the lingo of crypto. A rug pull occurs when the liquidity providers remove all of their liquidity at the same time. You see, providing liquidity for an asset is a public function. Anybody can go on PulseX and they can add liquidity to any asset that's tradable on that platform. And people can make their own assets. They can literally just create them out of thin air. And when you provide liquidity, you have, whatever named asset on one side of the equation, and then you have another asset on the other side of the trading pair to provide some kind of trading ratio. Usually, the comparing asset is something that's based on the dollar, like USDC, for example. Um, that's a popular asset to have in your liquidity pool. The Pulse token serves as a contrasting asset in your liquidity pairing. But basically, what happens in a rug pull is you have, your beetroot on one side of the equation, and then you have like your dollar on the other side of the equation. And what happens is the people behind these products, usually up front, there's only a few liquidity providers, and chances are they all know each other. And they hype up their product to get a lot of people to buy it. And then the liquidity providers, they all pull their dollars from the other side of the equation all at one time, which causes the asset to its price drops down to absolute zero because there's no longer anything on the other side of the equation to compare it to. So it's like that's the figure is pulling the rug out from underneath the feet of the people who are buying the asset. That's why it's called a rug pull. So there was a lot of speculation at the beginning of Hex 4 years ago that Hex would do the same thing. Well, it hasn't happened in 4 years. And now, there's so much involvement in liquidity providing. The longer an asset is on the market, the less likely it is to rug pull because, as I said, providing liquidity is a public function. So the more liquidity providing that is going on, the less likely it's going to experience a rug pull. So let's see. Melv Tony says, that's one of the best interviews I've ever seen. The history was very important. Putin put all of the pieces of our current situation in place. It was a brilliant interview. Saw the whole thing. That's good to know. Thank you for sharing that, Melv Tony. I probably would have come to the same conclusion if I did watch the whole thing, because having a knowledge of history is very important. Now, like I just said, most people, particularly in the West, they don't have any knowledge of history because history has been rendered irrelevant because everybody thinks we're the smartest people alive right now. But when you look at circumstances from a historical context, you can reason from cause to effect to understand why things are the way they are. And once you have that understanding, then you can move forward with some kind of resolution or some kind of solution in regards to all of this. But getting back to something that you had just said, Melv Tony, about why EHEX, PHEX, Pulse, PulseX, both Icosis and Hedron all go up and down at the exact same time. This is because of the liquidity pairing. They're all bonded to each other in the liquidity pools. So when the price of one goes up, it affects the price of all of the others. If you go on to PulseX, you'll see that the Pulse token is like the number one liquidity pair in relationship to the other asset on all of these. The Hex Pulse pair, the EHEX Pulse pair, the PulseX Pulse pair, Icosa Pulse, Hedron Pulse. That's literally like the number one pair on the list of the top liquidity pools. So, and then Pulse, of course, is tied to the dollar. And Hex, for the longest time, the Hex USDC pair was the highest volume liquidity pair in all of the trading pools. So This is why all the assets move up and down at the same time, is because they're all tied to each other in liquidity pair bonding. So in a way, that's a good thing. Um, I believe that's what is referred to as Hart's law, or it's Metcalfe's law. I'd have to look up uh, a refresher on the definition of those laws, but that's at the heart of the matter of all this. So he asks, so then it's just best to buy Pulse. I still love Hex more because of the T-shares. So do I. To be honest, I have not really done much to acquire Pulse outside of my sacrifice. Um, I personally believe that acquiring Hex is the better move because of the T-shares, and the fact that the cost of T-shares per Hex has been going up a lot lately, because I've noticed there's been a lot of short-term staking by people with tens of millions of Hex, even over 100 million Hex. I've noticed that getting staked short term in the past month or so. Those short term stakes are going to drive up the cost of the T share. So I don't know if people are doing that by intent, or they're just experimenting, or don't know what they're doing. But the effect is still the same. The price of the T share is going up. So if I had to choose between Pulse and Hex, I would definitely go with Hex for that reason alone. And also, um, the Pulse token is mainly there to serve as a gas token for doing transactions on the network. Now, there's other things that you can do with Pulse if you have a lot of it. And that is, like, you could send it into liquid loans and open up a vault, and you can borrow against your Pulse. You can mint a stable coin you called USDL, and you can use that to acquire Hex if you want, or whatever other asset that's available on Pulse Chain. Um, but otherwise, I personally favor Hex over Pulse because of the T-share, because you can set yourself up with a staking ladder, earn your yield, and move forward from there. But this is some of the things that have been occurring to me since last night. But, you know, a lot of people have learned a very painful lesson in the past 24 hours by getting involved in things like this whole beetroot. And, the people who promote this kind of stuff really need to man up to it. There was some other thing in the past that a neighbor of mine that I found out has been involved in Hex. He went and put a whole bunch of money in one of these other knockoffs of Hex, and he lost thousands of dollars because he listened to somebody online who promoted it. And these people who promote this stuff, if they publicly promote it, they need to publicly apologize for their actions. And if they cannot be man enough to do that, then I I disassociate myself from those people, if I had any association with them in the first place. People who promote something and then it rugs, and then they go on and promote something else as if that never happened. I do not listen. I don't follow those people on Twitter. I don't care how many green candles their coin of the month gets. I have nothing to do with it because that, you know, to me, that's just despicable. Now, there is someone who has come forth recently who has publicly apologized and has said, "Yeah, I got involved with stuff and I lost a lot of money, and I want you all to learn from my mistakes, and I don't want you to do what I did." And, that's something that I can respect. But, and if somebody actually asks people for money to spend on garbage and it crashes, those people need to pay those people back. They need to make restitution for that kind of stuff because in the real world, you can actually be prosecuted for doing stuff like that. You can't really, go after people that easy in crypto unless are someone like Sam Bankman-Fried that, goes on TV and, you know, gets people to give him billions of dollars and stuff like that. But the same thing happens on a smaller scale all the time. But anyway, I want to acknowledge something in chat. Mr. Clairvoyant, whom I'm aware of. He says, I would be very careful recommending liquid loans until they get Fetch working properly and they can survive multiple market cycles. Algorithmic stable coins are not an easy product to execute technically, in my humble opinion. I'm going to take that to heart, Mr. Clairvoyant, because I was not aware that Fetch was still dealing with issues. I thought that they had that all worked out. The fact of the matter is, I'm not recommending liquid loans. It's just something that's there. So that's not something I'm going to be talking about on a regular basis. As I've said before, the only three assets that I'm going to talk about on here, as far as something that I'm personally invested in and would talk about in that manner, would be Hex, Com, and the incentive token. And so, yeah, I'm not going to be making a big deal about that. But as I was saying, part of the successful society that I keep making reference to on here has to include people being accountable for the things that they put any kind of stock in and that they talk about in a public manner. Because that's called integrity. And integrity is very crucial to living a successful life and creating a successful society. Integrity is like a road. It will support you as long as you stay on it. And, having integrity is simply living up to the truth that is there. So, with that, I do want to take a moment to recognize someone who owns a business. And I want to pull up their Twitter handle here because they don't have a website for their business that I am aware of. But this is the man who is responsible for the wrap on my Tesla. And he runs a printing business out of his house. And it was very interesting when I went to have my car done and I took it to his house. He gave me the walkthrough of his whole operation. His name's Josh Miller, and he runs JMM Imaginations. And believe his email address is jmmimaginations@gmail.com. That's a way you can contact him if you don't just talk to him through DM on his Twitter page. But Josh's work is top quality, and he has several years experience doing printing. I believe he was working for a printing company as his primary employer when I was there last year to get my car done, and he was branching out by doing things out of his house. But I mean, he's got this printer in his house that's almost as long as his garage itself. And like he literally, my wrap was literally just a giant bumper sticker that went on the door, and then another bumper sticker that goes on the other door. And then the other panels of my car, like he literally found the templates for the panels of my car online. And then I just did a video walk around of my car and explained to him how I wanted it laid out. And then I sent him that video, and then I sent him some JPEGs of the logos that I wanted done. And he took all of that and he applied some of his own creative uh, license to what I suggested. And that's how my uh, rap turned out the way that it did. And it turned out much better than what I was originally picturing because he took the time to add his own artistic flair to it. And I'm really glad that he did that because I'm just so happy with the results of that rap. I have people taking pictures of my car from time to time and people asking me, what is all of this? And it's just an instant platform to share with them everything regarding pulse chain, hex, the whole DeFi space, whatever I want to talk about in that conversation. So, thank you, Josh, for your excellent work. Like I said, if there's anybody out there that needs any kind of printing work done, I would highly recommend that you contact Josh, talk to him about what you want. Um, he gets it. I had him print some material for the Libertarian Party here in Yavapai County, Arizona. And the guys that are part of the party, when I gave them the material, they were just, very happy with it all. So thank you again, Josh, for your awesome work. And I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but my phone is literally blowing up right now because I want to share this with you. I get a notice on my phone every time some substantial hex stakes are made. And somebody is like staking a lot of hex right now. 1,200,000 hex staked here, here, here. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 stakes of over a million of 1,200,000 hex each. That is some serious staking going on. And those stakes are for almost maxed out. They're over 5,000 days each. Wow. And then this last one is for 10 years. Wow, that is some serious staking. Whoever you are doing all that staking, thank you. Because as hex is staked, if you're not aware, When you stake hex, you're not necessarily depositing it somewhere. There's no custody holder of that staked hex. That hex is actually burned out of existence, meaning as hex gets staked, the supply, the token supply is reduced, which means that's less hex that is available to buy on the open market. So as people stake hex, they're causing the supply to deflate, which based on demand would have a tendency to drive the price up. That's the whole point of staking it till you make it. You're contributing to price appreciation by staking hex. Now, granted, that's not having people emergency end their stakes so that they can take advantage of the higher price by selling it. But the fact of the matter is, when you stake hex, you are agreeing to honoring the terms of your stake length. If you emergency end your stake prematurely, you're going to pay penalties. And those penalties are distributed to the other stakers, and they're also distributed to the origin address. The origin address has never sold an asset since day one. It's never one hex. So the origin address is a feature of this system. It's not a bug. It's protecting the staker class by not selling down the price. And as people, don't honor their staking terms, that origin address is there to absorb some of those penalties to protect the other stakers. Because if 100% of the penalties were given to the other stakers, well, then, they might be tempted to emergency end stake also. But anyway, staking is the way to go. And I agree with you, Mel Tony. That is some crazy staking. I may take a brief moment here and look at the price chart of Hex. As a matter of fact, I'll share that here. I'll share my screen just for a talking point here. We'll present. Yeah, here we go. Yes, you can see that the price of Hex in the last 24 hours has gone up 2.69%. So we're back over 1.5 cents for Hex. That's just the E-Hex, or excuse me, the Hex on the Pulse chain. If you include Hex on the Ethereum chain, the price of that together, we're almost at 2.5 cents for the total value of Hex. And you can see that Inc, even though it's pulled back 2%, Inc is at $2.82. So Inc was over $3 not too long ago. And I'm looking forward to it going back over that again. I think we're going to see that fairly soon. And so, yeah, it's good to see some activity going on here. So anyway, yeah, we got a lot going on here in our space. And Dominic dropped in and says, "What's up, Timmy? What's up with you, Dominic? I'm glad to see you stopped in. I don't know if you saw yesterday, but I started highlighting a business each day just to give them a shout out. And Montesano Brothers was the business that I highlighted yesterday. And this morning I talked about JMM Imaginations. That's the guy who did the wrap on my car. But all is going well, Dominic. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're doing well. I hope your family's doing well also. Um, but yeah, just been talking about a lot of things here. And Clairvoyant asked, have you talked about asset allocation and how you approach this yet? Um, well, as far as my personal asset allocation, I am mainly focused on Hex, Com, and Ink in that order. Because if you uh, allocate assets to those three digital assets under the right conditions, you can acquire those for free. By staking Hex, you get T shares. The T shares give you a cut of the inflation. So you can acquire Hex for free by allocating assets to Hex and then consequently staking it. And if you stake Hex for at least 6 months, you can get a free distribution of COM. And if you stake Hex for at least a year, you can get a free distribution of COM at the beginning of your Hex stake and at the end of your Hex stake. And one of the reasons I promote COM is because I'm one of the people who is allocating assets into COM directly by acquiring it on a average basis to help drive up the price of COM so that people who claim COM can get a higher dollar value of COM by doing that. Right now, the dollar value of COM is relatively low, so it's almost not cost effective to claim it, or at least it's not cost effective to mint it. You can claim it and restake it within your own contract. But until the dollar value of COM goes up significantly, it's not worth it to mint it unless you stake for 5,555 days. Because the way the COM allocation is set up, it's exponentially, the amount that you get is exponentially different if your stake is less than 15 years. So, but anyway, that is still something that somebody can acquire for free for staking Hex. So that's one of the reasons I promote that. And then, of course, Ink is the incentive token, which is a gratuity that you can acquire for free if you provide liquidity on the PulseX farms. But again, you need a lot of capital outlay to see a real benefit from doing that, but it is there. But the number one asset allocation that I promote is put your money in Hex, stake it till you make it. Because if we get enough people who make it, we can concentrate our time on addressing issues that can help create a successful society. So that's what I've seen in Hex since day one. And that's why that is the number one asset. So yeah. Oh, Dominic says I'll be there tonight. Well, Dominic, when you go there, if you watch the replay of yesterday's stream, you can see I take a couple minutes to run through their website. I talk about Michael and Anthony's music endeavors, and I make reference to their YouTube page. So they may appreciate that. Like I said, those guys are awesome, and I want to do everything I can to help them out. You're not too bad yourself, Dominic. Actually, those guys are my favorite Pennsylvania Hexicans, and yeah, it's worth it to make a trip back there just to see those guys if I do nothing else. There are other Pennsylvania Hexicans, uh, that I'm aware of, um, but those guys are the tops. And, anyway, uh, speaking of great people who are out there, who are doing their part to create a successful society, I wanna take a moment now to, address the prestigious and highly coveted Hexican of the Day award. Yes, it's that time in this show when we highlight somebody who is part of the Hex community and is an awesome person, even though they may not get out there, um, get their face out there in the Hex community as much as other people do. And um, this person that I'm going to highlight as the recipient of the award this morning is someone that I first became acquainted with on RG3's Friday Night Hangout. He would pop in from time to time, and I started talking to him. And because of his uh, vocation and what he is into, I looked him up online, and I believe he has a Wikipedia page because he's involved in the entertainment industry. So I always thought that that was really cool that we have somebody who's in the entertainment industry who is interested in Hex. So when the uh, following Hex conference was held in Las Vegas, and I found out that he was going to be there, I made sure to take the time to meet him, talk to him face to face. And um, I've just felt a high degree of respect for him ever since. And, for someone of his age, uh, and just what he's had to deal with his upbringing, the fact that he's putting forth the effort to do the things that he's doing to help people, to reach out, is very, very highly respectable as far as I'm concerned. And he is right now um, doing he's got a project going on where he's reaching out to, I believe, kids that are in high school to help them in the role of video production, film production. He basically has his own studio where he's basically branching out in this area. And he's also involved in professional photography. And when I took my last road trip back east last year, I stopped by his studio in Oklahoma City to do a photo shoot. And it was just great. And we've met up before for like meals and stuff. But I consider it an honor to consider this person a friend. And I'm really glad that he's involved in this space and that he does what he does. So it is with great honor that I give this Hexican of the Day award to Mr. Let me pull it up here. Mr. Kyler Kaufman. And I can't recommend enough that you follow him on Twitter and just keep an eye on the things that he's doing because he's doing a lot for people, not just people in Hex, but people in his community. And, you know, Kyler is another person like Seth Mendoza who strikes me as someone who's very mature for his age. Um, you know, I remember being younger and I wasn't always I mean, there was people who thought I was mature for my age, but I don't believe I was that mature for my age. But anyway, I want to share with you something else here. I have a picture of, let's see, I want to share with you a picture of Kyler and I from the Hex conference where uh, I first met him. And yeah, it was just a great opportunity. I love Hex conferences. I highly recommend um, that people go to the Pulse Chain conference that is going to be in Las Vegas, March 6th through 9. I was watching a live stream last night with Matty Allen, uh, Johnny Chaos, and uh, SJ. SJ is involved in the organization of this conference, and it looks like it's filling up fairly quickly. They weren't expecting a big turnout, but it looks like a lot of people are going to be turning out. So if you're thinking about going, you may want to look into that sooner rather than later. And yeah, it's going to be great. And let's see, a couple more chats have popped up here. Dominic says, "Hey, I believe in Hex. You know, I started to buy at 17 cents, bought all the way up to 43 and kept buying all the way down to below 1 cent. I'm in for the long haul. So am I." And you know, that's the nice thing about people being involved in something for the long haul. They have to learn to deal with one another. And that's kind of why I'm doing these live streams is to help facilitate people dealing with one another on a long-term basis. We're going to have to learn to get along if we're going to make this product successful. You did a good thing. Trust me, you won't regret it. Yeah, there's no regret staking it until you make it. And a clairvoyant says, I'm going the 6th through the 9th. And that's just one more reason that I want to go is to meet up with people like Clairvoyant, who opened up his house to me at another Pulse Chain event. And that was pretty wild. The way his house was laid out was pretty awesome. So, yeah, it's all coming together very well. So, I'm coming up on 1 hour here, and I do have an appointment at 11 o'clock. So, I do need to get going and get ready for that. I have to meet up with my accountant because it's that time of the year. Wouldn't it be great that, you know, Hex becomes so powerful and so well adopted that we just do away with the IRS. So, I mean, that's a libertarian's dream, and I'm not going to get into it now, but we have a lot of power at our disposal. We need to learn to use it. We need to learn the value of exponential growth that comes from people being able to work together to create a successful society and accomplish great things. So I hope you want to be a part of that. And but for now, I need to go. I got things to take care of. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to hang out with me this morning. Tomorrow's stream is going to be later in the day. I won't be available in the morning, but I'll put out a notice, let everybody know, and hopefully you can all stop by. And until then, you all take care, have a great day, and talk to you all tomorrow. See ya.